45 Psychological facts about people who always want to be right. Their need to be right often comes from a deep fear of being seen as weak or unintelligent. They subconsciously equate being wrong with being unworthy. Many learned this behavior in childhood homes where mistakes were punished, not taught. Constant correction of others gives them a temporary sense of control. They usually struggle to listen because their brain prepares arguments instead of understanding. They tend to dominate conversations to avoid vulnerability. Their confidence is often a mask for hidden insecurity. They thrive in debate-like environments, even when no debate exists. They find apologizing emotionally draining, not because of pride, but fear of losing respect. When proven wrong, they may shift the topic or twist facts to maintain superiority. They secretly admire humble people, even if they'll never admit it. Many are perfectionists, terrified of flaws being noticed. They interpret disagreements as personal attacks, not discussions. Emotionally, they may struggle with empathy, focusing more on logic than feeling. Deep down, they crave reassurance but chase it through dominance. Their relationships often suffer due to constant one-upmanship. They are more likely to interrupt others, seeing silence as weakness. They often grew up with critical or emotionally distant parents. They mistake certainty for intelligence, equating "I know" with "I'm valuable." They fear being misunderstood, so they over-explain. Many have a hard time trusting others' opinions, only their own feels safe. They tend to view the world in black and white, struggling with nuance. Winning an argument gives them a dopamine rush, similar to victory in a game. They are secretly afraid of rejection if their ideas are challenged. When calm, they can recognize they were wrong. But ego blocks them mid-conflict. They are drawn to positions of authority to maintain control. They often confuse confidence with correctness. Many suffer from confirmation bias. They only seek evidence that supports their views. They feel uncomfortable in silence, so they fill it with explanations. They may gaslight unintentionally, not to manipulate, but to defend self-image. When others win debates, they may feel personally defeated. They usually believe they are logical thinkers, even when emotions drive them. People around them often walk on eggshells, afraid to trigger defensiveness. They find compromise difficult, interpreting it as losing. They may overuse facts and quotes to validate their sense of authority. Their friendships thrive best with people who are emotionally patient and self-secure. Many overachievers share this trait due to fear-driven ambition. They find comfort in predictability and control, not spontaneity. Their biggest lesson in life is to value connection over correction. With age and humility, many learn to embrace uncertainty as strength. Deep conversations with them can become debates instead of understanding. When proven wrong kindly, they may soften and grow instead of resist. Their strongest relationships are with people who don't compete but reflect. They are often highly intelligent but emotionally under-nurtured. Healing begins when they realize being right doesn't mean being fulfilled. Thesis, single logical statement. People who always need to be right maintain that behavior because being right functions as a learned strategy that reduces internal uncertainty and shame by producing social status, control, and short-term reward. This creates a self-reinforcing loop where cognitive distortions, black and white thinking, confirmation bias, emotional avoidance, and social reinforcement keep the pattern alive. So the only way to change it is to break the loop by weakening the rewards, strengthening tolerance for uncertainty, and retraining the brain with consistent feedback and new habits. Function over label. Behavior exists because it achieves something for the person. Wanting to be right isn't just a trait. It performs functions. It reduces anxiety about uncertainty, protects self-esteem, signals competence to others, and secures social standing. If you ask, what does this do for them? The answer explains why it's persistent. Cognitive mechanics. To always be right, you rely on mental shortcuts that favor your position, selective attention to supporting evidence, discounting counter-evidence, confirmation bias, and simplifying complex issues into right-wrong, black-and-white thinking. These distortions reduce cognitive load and protect identity. Emotional avoidance. Admitting you're wrong requires tolerating shame, vulnerability, and unpredictability. For people whose self-worth hinges on competence, those emotions feel dangerous. So arguing and defending become emotion regulation tactics. They avoid feeling small by asserting correctness. Short versus long-term payoff. Being right brings short-term gains, status, temporary relief, but long-term costs, damaged relationships, missed learning, isolation. The behavior persists because the immediate reward often outweighs distant social penalties in the brain's reinforcement calculus. Neurochemical aspect. Brief, cautious. Human brains track reward. Winning arguments or being affirmed releases neurochemical signals that make the pattern feel good, encouraging repetition. This is not mystical. It's the same learning system that makes habits sticky. Consequences. Logical implications. Communication becomes adversarial rather than collaborative. The person misses corrective feedback and slows personal growth. Close relationships erode because intimacy requires vulnerability and mutual error correction. Teams suffer. Decisions become defensive or one-sided instead of integrative. How change logically happens, a roadmap, practical, evidence-based, break the reinforcement loop, reduce reward for winning, stop automatic appeasement. If someone always needs to be right, don't feed the victory. Acknowledge facts, not tone. Neutral responses remove social payoff. Increase natural consequences. Let minor mistakes stand without rescuing. This creates corrective feedback that shows being right isn't the only way to be valued. Increase tolerance for uncertainty and shame. Exposure to being wrong. Small, deliberate experiences of being wrong without catastrophic outcomes trains tolerance, like exposure therapy for social anxiety. Label the emotion, teach, encourage, naming shame, embarrassment or fear when it occurs. Naming decreases intensity and increases regulation. Retrain cognition. Socratic questioning. Ask gentle, structured questions that expose uncertainty. How do you know? What would change your mind? This shifts the debate from identity to evidence. Practice intellectual humility. Use exercises that reward curiosity over certainty, e.g., play devil's advocate and count how often new insights come up. Longer-term change. Therapy, coaching. CBT and mindfulness help reframe cognitive distortions, increase emotional tolerance, and build new reward pathways. 8. Modeling and reinforcement. Surround the person with role models who value learning over being right. Reinforce humility when it appears. Quick scripts you can use if dealing with them. To diffuse, I hear you. Your point makes sense. Let's test both ideas and see what works. To challenge calmly, I don't see it that way. Show me the evidence you think is most important. To set a boundary, I'll discuss this, but not while it's about who's right. If it stays personal, I'll step away. People who always need to be right aren't purely arrogant. They're following a learned survival strategy. Claiming certainty gives short-term safety and status while avoiding shame. And the cure is practical, not moral. Break the reward loop, teach tolerance for being wrong, and retrain thinking with curiosity. The argument room. Ethan hated silence. To him, silence meant weakness, a gap waiting to be filled by someone smarter, louder, or faster, so he filled it. Always. At work, at dinner, even during family talks, Ethan corrected everyone. If someone said, "It's raining tomorrow," he'd reply, "Actually, no, there's only a 40% chance." He didn't even check the forecast. He just needed to be right. People stopped arguing with him after a while. They nodded, agreed, and avoided deep conversations. Ethan took that as proof that he was right most of the time. But deep inside, he felt something strange, a quiet loneliness wrapped in pride. One evening, his girlfriend Mira spoke softly. "Do you ever wonder why people stop talking when you walk in?" He laughed. "Because they know I'll correct them?" She smiled sadly. "No, Ethan. Because they know you'll never listen." Her words stung more than any argument he'd ever won. He sat in his car outside their apartment, staring at his reflection in the windshield. He realized he had been confusing control with confidence. He didn't argue to share truth. He argued to protect his image. Every "I'm right" had been a small shield against the fear of being dismissed, forgotten, or wrong. In truth, he wasn't chasing truth. He was running from shame. The kind planted long ago by a father who mocked every mistake. He'd spent years trying to prove he wasn't the fool his father said he'd be. That realization broke him. For the first time, Ethan whispered to himself, "Maybe I was wrong." It felt awkward, heavy, but strangely freeing. Weeks passed. He tried something new. He listened. When others spoke, he didn't interrupt. When someone corrected him, he breathed through the urge to defend. It was uncomfortable, like learning to walk again. But slowly people started opening up to him. Conversations lasted longer. His girlfriend smiled more. His co-workers began asking for his input, not to be corrected, but to be heard. Ethan learned the hardest truth of all. Sometimes the smartest person in the room is the one who admits they don't have all the answers. Moral, psychological reflection. People who always need to be right often carry invisible wounds, early experiences where being wrong was punished or ridiculed. They build logic like armor, facts like walls, and control like oxygen. But true intelligence isn't domination. It's the courage to learn, the humility to listen, and the strength to say, "I could be wrong." The logical approach to dealing with people who always want to be right. Understand, it's not confidence, it's fear in disguise. They argue to protect their ego, not to destroy yours. Their rightness is often an emotional shield against feeling stupid, unseen, or small. When you recognize that, you stop reacting and start responding. Learn to pause before you prove. When you feel that spark, the urge to correct, explain, or outsmart, breathe. Say silently, "Is this helping connection or feeding my ego?" That 1 second of awareness breaks the entire cycle. Build self-worth outside of being right. Start valuing qualities like empathy, curiosity, and patience, traits that don't need applause to exist. The moment you realize people love you for how you make them feel, not for how many times you're right, you start to relax into your humanity. Apologize when needed, not when perfect. Perfection is fake peace. Apology is real peace. Saying "I was wrong" is not an admission of failure. It's a display of strength that earns respect, not pity. Relearn conversation as connection, not competition. Stop listening to respond. Start listening to understand. That single shift transforms your relationships, your peace, and your self-respect. The logical truth to remember. People who always need to be right are chasing control to feel safe. But true safety comes from acceptance, not dominance. And if you're that person, you don't need to fight the world to prove you matter. You already do, even when you're wrong. If you've ever dealt with someone who always needs to be right, or realize that maybe you've been that person, take a moment to grow from it, not run from it. Real self-awareness starts when we stop defending our flaws and start understanding them. Visit my website for more in-depth psychological insights, emotional healing tools, ebooks, and printable planners that help you build discipline, awareness, and balance. If this message hit home for you, if you've ever dealt with someone who always needs to be right, or realized that maybe you've been that person, take a moment to grow from it, not run from it. Real self-awareness starts when we stop defending our flaws and start understanding them. Visit my website for more in-depth psychological insights, emotional healing tools, ebooks, and printable planners that help you build discipline, awareness, and balance. You'll find everything designed to help you become mentally stronger and emotionally freer. And before you scroll away, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share this video. Your engagement helps spread awareness and keeps this community growing.